Most people think the American dream of owning real estate is dying. With skyrocketing interest rates and a volatile economy, the average investor is frozen in fear. But while the masses are waiting for a crash, the world's elite are following a 3,000-year-old blueprint. King Solomon didn't build his legendary empire by following the crowd. He understood a secret that most modern investors have forgotten. True dominion is built when the markets bleed. In today's episode of Solomon's Wealth Guide, we're revealing why U.S. real estate is not just a market, it is the modern-day war chest. I'm going to show you exactly how to apply the Solomon Protocol to acquire tangible wealth in America, while everyone else is losing theirs to inflation. If you want to protect your family's legacy for the next 100 years, pay close attention. This is the strategy the 1% won't tell you.
In our modern digital era, we are constantly seduced by numbers on a screen. Stocks, crypto, and bank balances that can fluctuate wildly or even vanish with a systemic failure. But Solomon didn't leave a legacy of wealth that lasted millennia through abstract numbers. He anchored his wealth in assets he could touch, occupy, and defend. Ancient records show that Solomon built storage cities, chariot cities, and expanded his territories not just for display, but to lock his value into the earth itself. Why? Because land and stone cannot be printed out of thin air. Let's apply this to modern America. When you own a piece of property in Texas, Florida, or even a small town in Ohio, you are practicing tangible dominion. You own a portion of the earth that inflation cannot erode. As the dollar weakens, the very walls of your property become a fortress for your purchasing power.
In the United States, property laws grant owners a level of control that mirrors a form of mini sovereignty. You have rights to the land, the airspace, and the resources beneath it. This is true dominion. While the average investor panics looking at red charts on Wall Street, the owner of tangible assets sleeps soundly, knowing that as long as humans need a place to live, their asset holds absolute intrinsic value. If you want to build wealth that is more than just a digit on a screen, you must stop thinking like a speculator and start thinking like a sovereign. You must own the tangible. Strategies like tangible dominion are why this channel exists, to bring timeless wisdom back into your modern financial decisions. If you're finding value in this perspective, join our circle by hitting the subscribe button and turning on the notification bell. On Solomon's Wealth Guide, we don't just talk about making money. We talk about building a legacy that lasts. Now, let's move to point number 2, the liquidity secret that most investors get dangerously wrong. The second pillar of the Solomon Protocol is perhaps the most misunderstood in today's debt-driven world. It is the war chest liquidity rule. History tells us that King Solomon didn't just possess vast wealth, he possessed liquid wealth. He maintained a treasury of gold and silver that allowed him to act instantly when opportunities or threats arose. He understood that in times of peace, you build, but in times of transition, you wait with a full war chest. In the modern US market, we are told to be fully invested at all times. The industry pushes the idea that cash is trash. But look at what is happening right now. High interest rates have paralyzed the average American buyer. Fear has entered the market. And this is exactly where the Solomon Protocol separates the masters from the servants. While others are struggling to qualify for a loan at 7 or 8%, the man with a war chest, the liquid investor, is the only one who can walk into the room and dictate the terms. Liquidity is not just money, it is optionality.
When you have a war chest of cash, you aren't begging a bank for permission to buy. You are the bank. In the current U.S. real estate landscape, being cash-heavy allows you to buy distressed assets, negotiate massive discounts from motivated sellers,
and skip the high-interest debt trap entirely. Solomon's wisdom teaches us that the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. In financial terms, taking refuge means moving into a position of high liquidity before the storm hits. Most people use their last dollar to buy a property, leaving them vulnerable if the market shifts. The Solomon Protocol dictates that you never deplete your war chest to the point of weakness. You keep your liquidity ready so that when the market bleeds and the for sale signs stay up for months, you can step in and buy the world while everyone else is forced to sell. Remember, in a crisis, cash doesn't just hold value. Cash becomes a weapon of mass acquisition.
To the average person, inflation is a thief. It steals the value of their paycheck and makes their groceries more expensive. But to those who follow the Solomon Protocol, inflation is something else entirely. It is a tool for the massive transfer of wealth. Throughout history, kings and emperors used a subtle secret to expand their dominion without firing a single shot. They understood that if you own the hard assets of a nation while the currency loses value, you aren't just surviving inflation, you are profiting from it. Let's look at the cold, hard data from the US market. When you buy real estate using a fixed-rate mortgage, you are locking in a debt in today's dollars. As the Federal Reserve prints more money and inflation rises, the real value of that debt begins to evaporate. Think about it. A $2,000 mortgage payment in 1990 was a significant burden. Today, due to inflation, that same $2,000 payment feels much smaller because wages and prices have risen all around it. The bank is being paid back in cheaper dollars, while the house, your tangible asset, continues to skyrocket in value. This is the Great Debt Melt. By owning U.S. real estate, you are essentially using the government's own inflation against them. Your debt stays the same, but the asset grows, and the currency you use to pay that debt becomes easier to acquire. Solomon wrote that the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. But in the modern Solomon Protocol, when you use inflation-protected debt to acquire tangible land, you flip the script. You are no longer the servant to the currency. You become the master of the asset. While the masses complain about the rising cost of living, the wise investor watches as inflation quietly pays off their mortgage and expands their empire. This isn't just luck, it's a strategic expansion of your dominion. The same way the ancient kings grew their kingdoms by holding the land while the common coins lost their shine.
In the ancient world, Solomon's kingdom utilized a brilliant concept called the cities of refuge. These were strategically placed locations designed to provide safety, order, and protection from external chaos. In modern-day America, not all states are created equal. If you want to protect your wealth, you cannot just buy anywhere. You must find your modern cities of refuge.
Look at the data. We are witnessing a historic great migration within the U.S. Capital and people are fleeing high-tax, high-regulation environments for states like Texas and Florida. These are the new sanctuaries of wealth. Why? Because they follow the Solomon Principle of protection. 1. Tax protection. In a world of rising government spending, states with no state income tax are the ultimate refuge for your cash flow. 2. Population growth. People move where there is freedom and opportunity. Where people go, rent follows. Where rent follows, your asset value explodes. Investing in a high-tax state today is like building a fortress in a valley prone to flooding. It doesn't matter how strong the walls are, the environment will eventually destroy you. The Solomon Protocol dictates that you place your war chest where the environment defends you, not where it drains you. By choosing markets with pro-growth laws and net positive migration, you aren't just buying a house. You are placing your legacy in a city of refuge that will stand strong even when the rest of the economy is in turmoil. Ask yourself, Is your wealth currently in a place that protects you or a place that harvests you? Your answer will determine your family's financial safety for the next decade.
The final and most powerful pillar of the Solomon Protocol is the 100-year view. King Solomon famously wrote that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. He wasn't talking about a pile of paper currency that loses 5% of its value every year. He was talking about a foundation, a legacy that is undepletable. In the US today, we are often trapped in the quarterly earnings mindset. We worry about what happens next month or next year. But the Solomon Protocol demands that you look further. You aren't just an investor. You are the architect of a dynasty. Real estate in America is uniquely designed for this 100-year vision. It is one of the few assets that allows for step-up in basis and tax-free transfers through 1031 exchanges, tools specifically built to keep wealth within a family tree for generations. When you own land, you are owning a piece of the future. A well-chosen property in a city of refuge won't just provide for you, it will provide for the grandchildren you haven't met yet. It is a vehicle that carries your name, your values, and your hard work across the boundaries of time. While the rest of the world is chasing the next get-rich-quick trend, the follower of Solomon builds a foundation that cannot be shaken. Because in the end, the goal isn't just to be rich. The goal is to ensure that your family never has to start from zero again.